couple days ago at the Colicky Pizzeria, a horrible accident happened where a spotlight cable fell on 3 kids, killing them instantly. Since then, the place has been closed, as the security footage shows it was not a wobbly the day prior. Even though it killed 3 kids, it was actually 4 kids who were hit, but one of them survived. Her name is Sophie. She's about 8 years old, but she has been traumatized by the event that she has lost the ability to speak. So me and Will, ready to investigate, we knew we needed her help, so we began by interrogating her and brought whiteboards with us. I remember when I was younger going to that place, eating pizza, playing games. I only remember one of the animatronics on stage. Colicky was the lead performer. He was a loving crow, helping children learn the importance of being happy. It's weird why would they go through a crow as their mascot. But to be fair, the mouse and bear was already taken. So I guess that was the only way out. And me and Will made it to the interrogation room, where Sophie was at the table. I began asking questions like, what's your favorite color? What do you love playing most? She answered pretty basically on the whiteboards with answers, green and toys. Eventually we got a little deeper, like, what was she doing before the incident? And did she know anyone? Then she answers with I don't know on both questions. Then I ask her, did you see anyone who could have done this? Then she writes down, there was a man near the stage with a red shirt. Unfortunately, the pizzeria demanded we explore only in the night, just to make sure no one sees us entering the restaurant and thinking they were breaking in. Once we got inside, it was very dark and damp, and very smelly, reeking like pizza and garbage everywhere. We eventually turned on the lights and we saw everything, and then my nostalgia came back to me. There was the tubes area, next to it was the arcades, and of course, the show stage. Me and Will began looking around the pizzeria. I went near the stage and opened the curtains to see all the animatronics there. Colicky, then there was the pig, Spunky with the muddy piano, and then there was Abe the dog with guitar. I don't really remember many of these. The worst part was that they smelled terrible and were worn out. I get these things were made like in the 70s, but come on man, they couldn't remodel them once? Suddenly I heard footsteps and began to follow the footsteps until it leads to a trail, which I decided to follow, even if I didn't want to. Then I turned a corner and see an old man in a red uniform. Freeze! I screamed at him. What do you want, officer? Sir, you're not supposed to be here. The place is closed. What are you doing here? I told him, listen, Sonny, there's much more here than you could possibly imagine. This isn't the first incident, and it will not be the last. Then he ran off. Freeze! I fired my gun at him, but it seemed like it did nothing. I quickly chased after, but eventually found the back door to a room which was inside. And they were filled with blueprints and articles from the 70s and 80s about missing kids. Some of the names were Jesse, George, Jack, and Rex. But what I was most freaked out was the big blueprint in the middle of a plan to appear to become invincible by using souls. I began to panic and breathing heavily before Will comes in and asks me if I'm okay. I tell him I'm fine and show him what I found. He begins looking at it for a couple seconds before telling me to get ready to leave. Will grabs the information. I started walking back through the back end stage entrance when I suddenly felt something on my shoulder. I tried to get out of its grip, but it wouldn't loosen. Then I look up and see Colicky is holding my shoulder tightly, and without moving its mouth says, "What am I? Where am I?" Until it opened its eyes and revealed its pure black eyes, staring at me like it had no soul. I quickly panic and jump out of there, and fell off the stage when suddenly something that shocked me to my core happened. Colicky began to rip the things that kept it on stage and began walking towards me. I began backing up, confused and terrified, as it let out a laugh and opens its jaw with black arms reaching out like silhouettes. I quickly got up and ran to the entrance when I heard behind me, "You will be back." Before turning around to see Colicky now holding something as the hands had been turned into crows. I quickly run out the door and start the car. Oh no! I forgot Will is still inside the restaurant. I quickly got out of the car and see Will running towards me. He jumps in the passenger seat. I asked him how did you escape, but then he tells me he just ran out of the entrance. And then I asked him if he saw what I saw, the monster, the thing. But then he said something made me really confused. He said there was nothing, and that all animatronics were on stage as usual. I was shocked. Am I going crazy or something? Was that all in my head? Or am I hallucinating? We made it back to the station and began the second interrogation. We began asking her more basic questions. But I had a question I've been wanting to ask. Sophie, do you know any of the animatronics? Suddenly she looks down and nods her head. Then she looks up and writes down on the whiteboard, yes. Can you name them for me? She writes down on the whiteboard. There's George showing a face with broken limbs and a melted face, which sends ice cold shivers down my spine. Then she drew Rex. His body was deformed. Torn off arms and legs, ripped off, and with no nose. Then she draws Jesse. He had all his fingers cut off and a broken neck. Body has been turned inside out with a bullet in its head. Then she finally draws Jack. He has no arms, his face has been deformed, and he has no eyes, as instead they are a bunch of eyes in his mouth. Will, shocked and freaked out, walks out to tell our boss. I ask her, why did you draw them like this? Then she writes down because they look like this. Then I ask her, do you know what happened to these people? She looks down and shakes her head left and right and writes down, they don't know. They? I asked her. Then she writes down the most horrifying thing I've ever read. Yes, my friends who live in the robots. I realized whoever killed these children were now in control of these robots. Then she writes down, but you forgot one. Who? I asked, terrified. She writes down, Zach. He's in the backstage room, hidden away. I was shocked because I checked that room and saw nothing. I was beginning to panic and like I was losing my mind and hold on reality. Then I asked her, how do you know this? She writes down, because they told me. And then I asked, how are you talking to them? Then she writes down, because I trained my voice to hear them. I was officially terrified at this point. I couldn't handle it anymore and walked out of the room and ended the interrogation. After the interrogation, I looked for Will. I find him in his room alone, clearly as terrified as I am. I sit next to him as he tells me how dark the situation really is and that we should stop before it's too late. I ask why, but then he makes a good point. What if we were doing something unnatural, like supernatural? How are we on Earth are we gonna fix it? I tell Will we can't just give up on this. I tell him I just got a huge lead. We can find a way to save her voice. I tell him. He doesn't believe me though. So the next day I will do the third interrogation. Eventually that day arrives, and with a beautiful morning and sunshine, I went to work looking for Will, but he said he was busy with paperwork, so he wouldn't be there that way. So I decided to interrogate Sophie alone. I asked her how was her day and how she was feeling. She writes down she's feeling a little better, but is she scared? I asked why. Then she writes down that her parents are planning on moving and to get rid of her nightmares, but she is worried that it will make the situation worse, as she knows the spirits won't let her free. I asked is there any way I can help. She writes down, the only way to end this if they rest. If not, I will turn into one of them. Showing a terrifying drawing of her dead with other ghosts at the pizzeria. I asked her to do me a favor, to help her. Can you ask all your friends what does the man look like? She begins to look around the room and nodding and shaking her head as she writes down. Very few remember anything before turning into this, except for one thing, a man in red bringing them to the back, and that's it. I began thinking, who did it? But the only person I could think of who did it was the man I encountered at one time. I decided to bring the police over and find this man, and eventually we found him in the sewers and arrested him. Feeling a sight of relief, knowing now that it's over and his night will end soon, I drove home happier than ever and slept happy that night, knowing it was now over. I woke up in the morning with a phone call about Sophie that when she attempted to leave, she had a violent seizure, which killed her. What? I was broken and confused. Did I not save her? How could I let this happen? What did I do wrong? Eventually we had a funeral with me and Will there to pay respects. I blame myself. I caused this to happen. I should have just not jumped to conclusions. I broke down crying as Will comforted me. While everyone else gave them on the case, I remember what Sophie told me. Zach, the one I didn't see, maybe he could tell me what's going on. So with no other choice, I head back to the pizzeria. I break inside carefully and creep my way through without waking up the animatronics. I try to make it to the back room from before, but as soon as I made it there, near the show, I heard, I told you we'll be back. I quickly turned, being strangled by my throat. I quickly began to panic, but I grabbed something from my pocket, which was a piece of metal from the spotlight accident, and slammed the metal right into the blank black, empty eyes, causing it to scream. I jumped out and run towards the back room, hearing a ding right on my tail. I barely had any breath left when I shut the door. I closed my eyes and sighed of relief. I opened my eyes and saw what she was talking about. A Phoenix animatronic in front of me. I suddenly heard, "Hello, Flavio. I heard so much about you. I heard you are here to help us. But we want to rest so badly. But we can't remember who did this to us. But I do. But to make the rest remember, you must enter the blocked off room. And inside will be your answer. But you must hurry before it is too late." If I was already freaking out before, then I was literally about to have a panic attack. But I remember why I was here and knew I had to go. I entered the outside room expecting to be attacked when I saw nothing. I walked out back onto the stage, but all the animatronics were gone. I eventually made it to my way to the hidden room boarded up, he said. But I could tell someone had just broken in. I walked inside and turned on my flashlight. I could smell rotten flesh and decaying walls. Something was wrong here. I see the room filled with blood everywhere and broken animatronics everywhere, like someone grabbed an axe and broke them all. Inside was the corpses of the children. Rex, George, Jesse, Zach, and Jack. I could tell the horrifying feeling in that room as I walked inside and noticed the same red uniform hooked up on the wall and a butcher knife next to it. I suddenly heard, "You really couldn't let it go, could you?" I turned around and see, no, it was Will! Will, right here, I screamed at him. "You always were the slow type. Now put your hands behind your back, now!" I quickly dropped to my knees and looked at him with disgust and hate. "You did this, didn't you?" "Yes, I did." "Why did you do this? Do you know how many people you've hurted? You've hurted lives you ruined. Do this entire time? Since the very beginning?" "Shut up, Flavio!" "Do you have any idea what it's like? Hiding all of this and you just come on this case and ruin everything I worked so hard for?" I started to cry. "Please just tell me, why did you do this?" "I began working here when this shitty pizzeria opened up and I had an ambition to become invincible, immortal, a guy. But it seemed impossible until I made a deal with death, and he showed me how to accomplish my dreams. All I needed was to trap souls while I go free. So one by one, I murdered and killed those stupid kids who wanted food and candy, fulfilled with their lives because they don't know the horrors of the real world. And all I needed to do was to lure them to a new world. I took all those stupid kids. George broke his limbs and then I put him in the oven. Rex chopped off everything, even his nose. Jesse, I ate his fingers like french fries and twisted his neck. Jack, oh, he was the most annoyingest of them all. Deep fried, cut off his arms, took his eyes out, and made him eat it. And Zach was my first victim, which I killed with a basic knife. And you know why I killed them? Because they deserve it, those annoying fucks! I even caused the incident that caused this place to shut down. And it would have worked if it wasn't for you. Everyone would have moved on from this case. But you didn't. And where did it lead you? To your demise. I was crying until I heard it. They will never know. Then I started to smile. And then I started to laugh. You didn't think we were alone, did you? Suddenly the ghost began to appear around him. We are gonna make you pay for what you've done. No. What have you done? Wait, kids. I got a couple of tricks up my sleeve if you want to see it. How about presents? Please. Oh, Death, come on, save me. I didn't mean to screw up like this. It was his fault. No. Instantly, the room was filled with blood as he was torn to shreds and put through raw head. But put through everything the feeling they had been through. The grace, the gouging, the oven, and deep fry until they twisted his neck, killing him for good. Then Sophie came to me.
I thank you so much for not giving up on me, even though I'm dead. I'm at least able to be free.
Then they flew upwards as normal spirits, now looking like kids, and flying up to heaven. It's been 20 years since that happened. I still wonder how the old man was arrested to be involved in this, or how Zach was brutally killed. I still sometimes see nightmares of that experience. I see a couple times people who look like Sophie, even though I feel guilt. That's my fault she passed away. I did set her free before she had to suffer like the other kids. But now I am old, and I sometimes when I'm looking out my window, see death staring at me and waving. Hello. Hey everyone, it's me, Nightmare Planet. I thank you all for watching this video. I'm gonna definitely make some changes soon when it comes to production, but I'll inform you guys about that when it happens. I also thank you guys for liking my new content works like Monster and Carcinus and the Alignment Chapter song. Like and subscribe for more content. Don't forget to send me your creepy story through my Gmail in the About section, and your creepypasta could be the best the world has ever seen. Also share this with friends with fear of robots and killers. They'll definitely be freaked out. And as always, good night everyone. Sweet dreams.